Oh boy, can't wait to review some new stuff outside. Let's get to it. Nope. Guess we're gonna make something for funsies today. Sure. Why not? Rapid strike goofy times go! So, obviously, stripped screws happen in some of these older blasters sometimes, and this is an original model rapid strike, so it could be up to 3 years old. It really stinks. Getting them out is an exercise in sometimes having to drill them out if other methods won't work, and there are better methods, but they don't work with certain screws that are just completely stripped, and then once you get enough lift, you can actually come in, and I used a Dremel cutting wheel and cut this. So, a little bit dirty right now, but we'll get that trimmed up and cleaned up, and it should look good as new. As far as the internals for a rapid strike, oh man, one hand is hard. As far as the internals for a rapid strike go, I just snipped the negative lead from the battery tray from the other side of the shell, so that's no big deal. This actually has a split battery tray, which is different than a lot of blasters. When we LiPo power it, the leads will come all out of here, so this will be a perfect clamshell again. But this is the rev switch. This is the trigger mechanism. The trigger mechanism in a rapid strike just operates this pusher motor in the mechanism, which will push darts into the flywheel cage, therefore throwing them forward at great velocity. But usual suspects in terms of locks, this is of course a magazine lock. This over here is, I'm pretty sure, a magazine lock for the rev trigger. I am not 100% there. And then this one up here is the jam door lock so that you can't get your fingers in there while it's working. I will, of course, be removing all of the locks, both physical and electronic, and then we will get on with whatever we're going to do with this. We've got to come up with something fun. Of note, the stock is an entire piece and is completely removable, which is cool because you can keep this gray on gray with orange stock. Since we'll be using predominantly orange hardware for this anyway and really only focusing on the main body of the rapid strike, I think that that will be exciting to maintain parts of it and maybe even the complete functionality of it. It's a very tight, compact stock. It's pretty good at what it does, even if it does only have the 2 settings as opposed to like a Raider stock, which has 4. Alrighty guys, so dissecting the rapid strike is a lot like dissecting the Strife in that you just basically got everything out of it, isolating both the mechanical and the electronic locks in the process. Now the things that we are curious about containing and actually preserving into our main circuit are mostly the loom that originally holds the trigger and the rev switch, the trigger and the rev switch itself, as well as the pusher. Now, all we're really interested in is the mechanical aspect of the pusher, as we're going to take that puny stock motor out and replace it with something with a lot more torque so that we can get higher rate of fire. This will be a 3 switch, so we only need the mechanics of that, however. So, other than that, all we have to do is strip off all of this detailing so that we can make it a pretty rapid strike. Rapid strike, but I did all of the wet sanding and then did a full tape off of the rapid strike. I just wanted to mention that you can see here that for some reason painter's tape does not like to stay for too terribly long, the way that I do it at least, over the course of a couple of days, because I tabled this project and waited for myself to get bored again. But the wet sanding turned out very smooth. It'll be very nice once it's all said and done. I just have to like redo this painter's tape, which is kind of obnoxious, but let's get a base coat on this guy. Alrighty guys, so again, I'm watching this footage for the first time since possibly 2016. I don't even remember when I made this rapid strike, but this process is called hydrographics. Right now I'm cleaning the tank. Hydrographics is really simple once you know the basic like few tricks that go into it, such as which way to set your film down, how to prep the tank, what temperature to use, etc, and what like activators to meld with your various things. After that, it's a lot like just spray painting enamel on and then blending everything together to get a really good coat. These vinyl logos come from my friend Avery of Custom 3D Nerf, and they really add a very royal touch to this blaster. The gold just looks super duper slick on that carbon fiber blue, which is why we named this one Regent. That was 100% intentional, definitely not a mistake. Then a little bit of light up, touch up work, just because Poverty's nerfed. Obviously, like, no hydrographics is flawless when put onto a shell with that much contouring, so a little bit of a black to touch up some of those errors means that nobody else will know where they're at. And now it's onto the internal. So what you can see right here is me stitching a cathode anode onto a pusher for the Rapid Strike. Again, that is a new motor. Hilariously, that is my old soldering iron. And then we have the motor cage already stitched up with, I want to say, 3S motors, and that is an Artifact gold canted cage, but it's all metallic with metallic flywheel, so it's going to give us a really interesting sound and relatively fair performance. They don't weigh an awful lot. Other than that, there's just a lot of test fitting of various 3D printed pieces that might hold the switches into place, but I think that we end up abandoning that in favor of polysilicate. Now, polysilicate is the compound that I've been using for setting my switches into the tier 1 and 0 strifes for a long time now. It just sets really nicely and lets you put the switches exactly where you want them to go, not where whoever designed this switch plate wanted them to go. So it looks like, and again, I'm seeing this for the first time with the rest of you guys, it looks like I went with a combination of 3D printed parts and the polysilicate, but that gives you precision above a lot of other stuff. And you can even see those are not my arms. That's my good friend Bobololo helping me out with some of the circuitry on the Regent, just because he is ultra familiar with the 3-switch setup. And it was just a whole lot easier, since he's only 20 minutes away, for me to have him come over and help me with some of the prototyping and testing. Other than that, I don't really know what else to say about this. We're using a variety of different adhesives and testing that 3-switch setup with a battery. The biggest thing here is getting that 3rd switch, which is the hardest part. It's like kind of a debounce switch, so that you always cycle the Rapid Strike properly and you never have a pusher that's half hanging into the magazine. That's hilarious. You guys can see Bobo's homemade circuit diagram, which is really just 3 different attachments to 3 different switches, but he's definitely looking that up constantly as we put this one together. Well, together, incidentally. Wow, this camera angle is terrible. It's hard to believe I used to film videos from this perspective, but now that we've gotten everything kind of electronically sound and doing exactly what we want to, you can see that I'm injecting just a healthy amount of polysilicate to make sure that none of this goes anywhere and it continues to cycle properly for the remainder of its lifespan. But that pretty much covers everything. You can see that we're just jerry-rigging a big pin return spring into that trigger. Both triggers, both the rev switch and the main trigger, and then from there it's just making sure that the stock can still articulate all the way in and out, and that is a tight fit, but it works. Alright guys, so this is it. This is the finished Regent. You can see that it's got nameplates and signature vinyl all underneath. It's 2K clear. A little smaller here to fit on the panel, a little larger here to be a little bit more bold. So it's gold and blue, which are very regal colors, hence the name. The blue has a full carbon fiber hydrographics dip on it. You can see slight blurring around the edges back here, but overall a very clean, very nice dip. Complete closing and opening of the stock. Not all Rapid Strikes have that, especially not all 3-switch Rapid Strikes. What does it mean to be a 3-switch? Well, this one has a canted flywheel cage plus aluminum wheels. It is a 3S build, which means that it has a lot of power in it. It's getting some pretty serious FPS. We've got aluminum flywheels and in a canted, I think, artifact cage. Yes, in a canted artifact cage. So artifact wheels and cage. But overall, decent performance. The reason that it is a 3-switch is because it's got a very crisp kind of firing mechanism. You can see that if I rev it and fire, this will always retract. Now the 2S, it is a 2S spec Aussie 130 motor. Everything's a 130, so it's got the Aussie 3S for this and then the 2S for this, which means that it's getting some serious darts per second. The rate of fire on this is going to be staggering because that's how these work. Hopefully it's got enough torque to get those lightweight metal flywheels up to speed. Is it raining? It just started raining. Oh man, well luckily this is going to fire very, very fast. So again, this deploys very cleanly, very easily. Overall, very happy with the aesthetics of this, and that's pretty speedy quick, guys. So let's fire some for distance. Wow, that was gone pretty quickly. So again, because of that high torque motor, you can stagger those shots very cleanly coming off of the pusher. But this is using full, I think, Omron switches on account of it does not have a MOSFET build. We put together the loom for this last year, but this is a really nice full class primary build, and I was wondering what I was gonna do with it, and I need a Patreon blaster for February. So this is going to be the February Patreon giveaway, and I hope that whoever gets it really, really enjoys it. You are gonna have to take care of a 3S LiPo to power this monstrosity, but it's going to look nice for a very long time because of that 2K clear. My mind is all over the place because I'm actually filming this right before China, but this will be February's Patreon blaster of 2018. Again, huge thank you to all of my patrons on Patreon for their continued support, making builds like this possible. This is a very nice Rapid Strike. It would be like a tier 1 Rapid Strike if I was using that system, as it just does not have LEDs, but it has pretty much everything else and is very, very nice. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Like, building these things is a ton of fun. I think that I still have the dip footage for it, and I hope that whoever gets it on Patreon really truly enjoys it, and it gets to go out to wars instead of sitting on a shelf and looking pretty. But that's it. Much love. Nerf on, Drac out.